All right, Tracy Harris. Hope you're doing well, by the way. Thanks for the comments here. I haven't gone through them yet, but I saw you commented a lot. Let's just go through. You said in response to me, it's a statistical reality. I'm not sure what it is you don't see. We literally, by the way, about statistical reality, if there is a discrepancy in like a race-based statistic, like if they're separating statistics by race, that doesn't mean that that statistic exists because of the race of the person's skin or because of the race of the person. That's not why that doesn't necessarily means that's not necessarily the reason why that statistic exists. So you say it's a statistical reality. I'm not sure what it is you don't see. We literally ended slavery and haven't fixed disparity since that time. Really? Since slavery, you don't think laws have changed? So I think that's fallacious right there. You say black citizens are disproportionately impacted by nearly every negative social health metric we measure. This is the opposite of random. Okay, so if you're going to demonstrate that it's because they are black, then you have to demonstrate that. It doesn't, just because that statistic exists, it doesn't mean it's because they are black. People are creating the statistic based on race, and that's fine. We can get some information out of that. But you have to demonstrate that it's because of the skin color or because of the race. And then you say when you have quantifiable data that demonstrates that a demographic is disproportionately harmed, that's a reality. That's a reality that that statistic exists based on race, but it's not a reality. It doesn't mean that it's because of the race that that statistic exists. When you have the data across the board and still say it's not happening, so this is all just fallacious after that. If you just accept that it's because of the race that that statistic exists, or that it's not due to social structure. When there are countries with social systems that don't follow the same pattern, I honestly don't know what would convince you that this is actually happening. Well, you have to provide the evidence that these decisions are being made based on race, that race is the driving factor here. Just to pull up a race-based statistic and to show the discrepancy doesn't demonstrate that. And then you say, let's see, you give me a Market Watch link. Let's see, I do have, yeah, I'll just let this video roll just so you get my, firsthand reaction of what you say. Based on the data, the Federal Reserve Consumer Finance, the typical black family has only 10 cents for every dollar held by the typical white family. Okay, and then if that statistic is true, then you say, why is that the case? While there is no magic bullet for racism, access to wealth and the security to pass it down from one generation to the next and go along toward changing. So this already presupposes that this is racism. That's the cause of this statistic. Researchers who study historical and contemporary racial inequality, we mostly conceive of wealth as a maker of success, but its true value is functional. The independence in economics. Okay. So more data to show. Let's see, this is pretty long. Till the end of slavery in the U.S., enslaved people. Okay, slavery. Let's get to the stats. I would read this all thing through, but I have so many posts to get to during this this era of race conversations. Okay, so there's statistical trends. So by 1915, black property owners in the South had less than 1/10 of the wealth of white landowners. This trend remains stable for the next 50 years. 100 years after emancipation, blacks were more than 10% of the population, but less than 2% of the wealth in the US, and less than 0.1% of the wealth in stocks. Wealth had remained fundamentally unchanged and structurally out of reach of the vast majority of blacks. Okay, Again, if that statistic is true, we have to ask the question then, why? What are the reasons? What are the plausible reasons why this could be true? If you're going to present racism as a reason, then you have to bring evidence to the table to demonstrate that. So lots of stats on inequality here. Housing assistance and education. Let's see. A complicit federal housing administration permitted the use of restrictive covenants which forbade home sales to blacks. These racially exclusive systems endured well into the 20th century. A complicit federal housing administration permitted the use of restrictive covenants which forbade home sales to blacks. Redlining, which defined black communities as hazardous areas, directly reducing property values and increasing. Yep. Okay. So yeah, racist. You know, or all around the world we can find examples of when racist laws existed, right? But the conversations I'm having. I'm trying to have are about what is the state of it now, and are people claiming things that are truthful, or are they claiming things based on fallacy that they think are truthful based on past tragedy and horrors that took place in these countries? Building new wealth. Okay, so it looks like that this article finishes off with a lot of the same feelings of presenting statistics, but there isn't evidence that, just by skimming this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any evidence presented that shows that race is what is driving this problem to continue, or this discrepancy to continue. So you would have to demonstrate that race is the determining factor here. Alarming racial differences in maternal mortality. Okay, what's the... I'm just going to skip to the conclusion, and just for the sake of this, assume that... I don't see a conclusion here. And just assume that the information is correct, which I find is fine for the sake of trying to keep these things rolling. Childbirth educators are a unique position to instruct women about the risks of unhealthy lifestyle. Okay, so outlining alarming racial differences in maternal mortality. So obviously education issue. Abstract. In this column, the author reviews statistics that reflect the disparity of maternal mortality rates among black, non-white, and white women. Again, it has to be demonstrated that this discrepancy or disparity is due to racism. Like we need evidence. We can't just, again, it's the common mistake people are making here, that if we pull a race statistic and it shows this huge discrepancy, so how many black males are incarcerated, for instance, so we're left with that fact, and then we say, why is that? A lot of people are just committing the argument from ignorance fallacy or incredulity, and saying, it's because of racism. It's obvious. They're black. Why else would it be? Well, let's look at the different reasons. Let's look at the cultural aspects, which includes economy and all of these things. My point is that if you're going to make a positive claim that it is racism, you have to demonstrate it. And then you go to see, so you post some other things here. So based on what you're posting as evidence, for what you're trying to demonstrate here, systemic racism, I think it was. So you also make a comment here, after 200, this video, I'm almost running out of time. After 250 years of social segregation and discrimination, current health data come from the African Americans are the least healthy ethnic group. Okay, So the stat's real. Why is that? You can't just say racism. So yeah, it looks like you're committing fallacies here, Tracy. If you're going to claim it's racism, you have to demonstrate how race is the determining factor for these discrepancies in race statistics.